of national security is
6:30.
The PNP have presented their manifesto for the general election 2025 coming up on September 3, and the document has attracted a lot of comment. Today, the ruling JLP had a press conference dismissing the document as being filled with JLP ideas, and in other places they say the plans put forward are just not credible. We've asked two analysts to give their perspective on what the PNP is proposing to do if they form government, to test whether or not the opposition is onto something good that can, as they say, take Jamaica forward. This is Lead Story, the Thursday edition. Let's start the show. Welcome to Lead Story on this Thursday. So good to have you. The PNP Manifesto presented at a function held at the Pegasus Hotel on Tuesday evening, as we told you. Yesterday, we went through some of the big ticket items with one of the spokesmen on the Manifesto Committee, Damian Crawford, who of course is set to enter the ring in Northwest St. Catherine as a candidate come Monday, nomination day for the September 3 general election. He spoke also about the funding for some aspects of the budget and where it is that the funds would come from. Today, the ruling JLP, they called a press conference affronted by their communications chairman, Abka Fitzhenley. It had Chris Tufton, the campaign manager. It had the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who's head of the Manifesto Committee, Manifesto and Achievements Committee, Kamina Johnson-Smith, and also had the Minister of Education, Dana Morris-Dixon, and the Finance Minister, Favour Williams there, and they went through and they weren't, as you would expect, it's a competitive space now, they weren't kind about the PNP's plans at all. But you would expect that opposing sides will, of course, be very caustic about documents that their rivals put out. Today, we've asked two analysts who have looked at the document presented by the PNP to assess for us whether or not the plans make sense, and if they agree with what the government has said, that much of what is in the PNP's document represents things that are already in train or policy ideas that the government has articulated that it will pursue if it gets another term in office. So without further ado, Roger Bent, he's no stranger to viewers of CVM TV. He's one of our go-to political and social analysts. And Sabrina Medwinter is representing Lands. Lands is a left-leaning political movement who says that it is here not offering the ideas and the perspectives that the status quo does, but from a left-leaning perspective, its views on how Jamaica should be run. Good evening, Roger. Good evening, Sabrina.
Good evening.
My name is still George, Roger. Sabrina, are you there?
Hey, George. Hi, Sabrina.
I'm not hearing Sabrina. Sabrina, I think you're muted. So free up the mute button, Sabrina. We can hear you. Are you there? All right, not hearing Sabrina just yet. We'll bring her in short order. Roger, let's crack on. The PNP's manifesto, your overall perspective of the document before we go into specifics.
I think it's a document with potential. Certainly, from the very onset of the topic, the theme that they've chosen, Jamaica Love, a pledge to country. I think that's something that I could really appreciate as it relates to one. Both political parties have decided to use Jamaica as a part of their tagline. That's one. It speaks to going back to this kind of roots where you understand that you're serving. It's service. I love that. But the idea of a pledge is unique in its form. It's almost giving your word, giving your bond. And I think that's a very good step as it relates to creating a manifesto. People want that kind of accountability. They've been wanting to hear politicians say that I'm serving you, and that's what we want to do. And so that kind of pledge it's important. Now, whether or not the pledge and the ideas that are in there are as measurable as you want them to be, that's another question. But I certainly felt that that was interesting and important. The areas, big areas around justice, areas around care, areas around support for families, the elderly, the youth.
Yeah, but just before you drill down, Roger, and there'll be time for that. You said that you were taken. I'm not going to say impressed, but you say you were taken. You're pleased that they're presenting them as pledges. But let's be fair. When politicians of whatever stripe say pledge, isn't that because promise has been such an abused word, and because promises have been broken over time by successive parties? Promise is almost like a dirty word in politics, but it still is communicating the same thing as to say, I pledge. So it is more word semantics than anything else when you say pledge as opposed to promise.
As a communicator myself, I disagree. Okay, fine, it's a fair argument to make that the word promise is now solid, and we may want to look at synonyms. But I think in any way, shape, or form, a pledge carries a different tone, a different meaning, and it certainly resonates differently with people. To the extent that the party now realizes the level of accountability that it carries require a different type of name change or a different type of wording, isn't a bad thing.
Yes.
Right? And we also can't always assume the nefarious intent of politics or politicians in terms of when they choose words.
Yes. All right. What I'm going to do is take a break at this point and come back, and we can drill down into what are the specifics from the PNP's collection of pledges in its Mission Jamaica Love document that impress you the most, and those you feel, if implemented by the opposition party they form government, can really move Jamaica forward. This is Lead Story Thursday edition.
Save when you charge your electric vehicle with JPS. It's even more affordable than gas. Our Charge and Go network offers the fastest electric vehicle chargers, so you can power up in as little as 30 minutes. With over 39 charging points island-wide, you'll always find a convenient place to shop, eat, work, or relax while you recharge. The Charge Lab app and Charge and Go RFID card make it easy to pay and track your charge right from your phone. Start Charge. Learn more at jps.com/charge and go.
Get your golden ticket and win with Sangsters is back to school. Spend $5,000 or more at any of our stores. Get a golden ticket, scratch it off, and win. The grand prize is a shopping spree valued at $150,000 at PriceSmart, or a JPS gift voucher valued at $150,000. Plus, 12 branch winners will get $10,000 digital gift card. See the press or visit our website for details. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
At Hawkeye, we work hard to develop state-of-the-art security solutions like our new Total Connect smart home automation system that gives you 24/7 access to control your appliances, lights, cameras, and doors using your smartphone, tablet, or PC. As the most trusted electronic security company in Jamaica, Hawkeye has the fastest response times to get to you when you need us most. Trust Hawkeye's Total Connect. Hawkeye, securing what matters most.
Back with us here on Lead Story on CVM TV, communicator Roger Benton, who serves as a political analyst and a social commentator, is with me talking about the PNP's manifesto. He says the form of the document is pleasing to him, and that he's most taken by the fact that the PNP says, look, we're not making a bunch of promises, we are making pledges to the Jamaican people about what we intend to do if we form the next government. Roger, yes, going into that document now, without my prompting, what are the things that you read and say, this is a winner and this is ready for implementation?
George, your use of words. I found some areas that I found particularly interesting, that I think that it's important that any political party, including the People's National Party, with a kind of socialist and democratic kind of viewpoint would want to embrace. The idea of, I think, justice for all was, I think is important. This whole idea of looking at, just reform overall, it's constitutional reform. That was important. That's what I think is on the mind of any sort of educated Jamaican who is looking at, the justice system, which is around legal access, is important. So I found that to be interesting. I found that to be something that people will want more of, to hear more about. Quality education. We can't talk enough about that, but as it relates to what we're going to be doing for teacher training, the kind of investment we're going to be putting in to digital technology for education, certainly I found to be interesting as well. And when we I think get a chance to delve into it with politicians on the road, hopefully they will also give us some more information on that.
Yeah, let me ask you, as you've mentioned a couple, Roger, the issue of constitutional reform and the reforms that will be necessary to do the very ambitious thing which the PNP says it will do, which is to open up Senate representation to more groups, the diaspora, Rastafari, the Maroons, to give them a place on the Senate. Let me ask you, how do you think that will fly in a parliament which so we're talking about a PNP as government implementing these things. How will that work in a parliament with the JLP as main opposition when the PNP, because of their fundamental differences with key elements of the JLP's own constitutional reform process, have refused to play ball? What will they do to get the JLP to play ball to allow them to make these massive constitutional changes?
Well, I don't necessarily think that there is any great difference. I think that both the JLP and the PNP, I think, can really coalesce around some of these ideas. I don't think it's such great philosophical disparity with them. I think these are workable and noble gestures. And if it is that, I think the People's National Party and the JLP are in the business of the people's interests. I think in the interest of the people, they would want to have an inclusive system.
Yes.
So I don't foresee that the JLP would oppose that, or the PNP would want to oppose that. Whether or not either party takes the position and may want to use the idea, let's say.
Yes. Sabrina Bedwinter, are you hearing me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Beautiful, lovely. All right, I trust you would have read through the PNP's collection of pledges to the Jamaican people through their manifesto, Mission Jamaica Love. What is your sentiment about the document? Do you think it represents something that Jamaicans can be satisfied with allowing the PNP to implement by voting them into office on September 3?
Well, actually, while you were just speaking about constitutional reform, something major was pointed out to me. So on that section, they now have the point that they want to replace the British monarch with a Jamaican president. They want an elected president now. This is something that my group, Lands, has been saying from 2023, and we've been wanting backing on this and been hearing nothing. And now it seems that the PNP is on this point. And the earliest that I can see that they have chosen to speak about this is July. So this is freshly come about, and we're wondering where is this coming from when the support wasn't there beforehand.
Yeah, and on the point of the elected president, Sabrina, if I may, how would that work when the president is supposed to be that neutral figure? So if you allow the president to be put in by election in the same way we select a ruling party who then puts forward a prime minister, won't it be a case of being seen as a PNP president or a Labour Party president, because that's how both sides will campaign for whomever they want, and then you're going to have a head of state, an ultimate authority in our governance structure that will be tinged by a political colour and not being trusted by some of the population to make decisions that are in the best interest of the country. Their actions will be seen as partisan. Is there not that fear?
We have actually received this question before, and in terms of politics, you can't be truly neutral. The positions, even if they're seen as neutral, they tend to be still seen as leaning to one side or belonging to a party. But in our head of state, the state would come first. It wouldn't be in terms of when we think of Andrew Holness as our Prime Minister, like yes, he's the leader of the JLP, but he's also the Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Yes.
Put that first and foremost.
Hold the point, Sabrina. Let me take the break and come right back. This is Lead Story here on CVM TV on this Thursday.
Jamaica is paving the way to becoming a republic, or future or choice. The time by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
6:45.
Save when you charge your electric vehicle with JPS. It's even more affordable than gas. Our Charge and Go network offers the fastest electric vehicle chargers, so you can power up in as little as 30 minutes. With over 39 charging points island-wide, you'll always find a convenient place to shop, eat, work, or relax while you recharge. The Charge Lab app and Charge and Go RFID card make it easy to pay and track your charge right from your phone. Start charge. Learn more at jpsco.com/charge and go.
With us on Lead Story, I'm speaking with Roger Bent, communications specialist, public commentator as well. Sabrina Medwinter, she represents LANS. LANS is a group of, well, it's a left-leaning political movement that says it wants to offer an alternative in terms of ideas and how the country should run, different from what is served up by the two main political parties. Roger, this issue of how the PNP intends to fund the things in its manifesto. Talk to me about that. Are you convinced by the explanations given? Do you think it is sound, the spending plan,
George,
the funding plan?
I am not. And I think as any sort of government, we have to be cognizant of the fact that it's a question that is worth asking. When we're talking about a manifesto and we're talking about putting plans forward, we have to be able to put forward a budget. We have to be able to put forward a framework, a timeline, a rationale, I think, that is feasible and that is fundable. I don't necessarily think that's particularly clear in the manifesto, and the PNP will have to do the work it needs to do over the next couple of weeks or days to explain that in great detail. I personally don't think it's enough, and I think it ought to be that we put those kinds of mechanisms in place as political parties, whether PNP or JLP, when we're putting things to the people, that we cost them, that we show where they're coming from. In 2025, it's the average intelligent voter is going to expect that.
All right. Sabrina, let me get your perspective on this inclusion of this broadening of the Senate and making it a broad church. The PNP's vision, Rastafari, the Maroon community, the diaspora, part of an expanded Senate under the PNP. Given that the Senate is the review chamber, bills are debated and passed in the House of Representatives and they germinate there. The Senate is just to review what the House of Representatives would have passed. Is this the best way to seek to bring marginalized groups who are very important, the PNP believes, into the decision-making fold by giving them a Senate seat when the Senate only reviews bills from the House of Representatives?
I think that they should have the want to include the marginalized community is a good step. I'm not sure that the Senate is the best place in our model. What happens is that persons who are qualified would be sending in their applications to be a part of the Senate. So I'm not sure why they chose to have marginalized communities specifically within the Senate,
yes,
where the House of Representatives is where they would most likely be able to
hear you on that.
To improve.
Roger, your perspective on that. You know very well the role the Senate plays as opposed to the House. And if you're giving people, you're saying that you're empowering these groups that were on the fringes that you believe is important, and you're making them a part of the process. Is the Senate the right place to put them, to empower them in the way the PNP says it wants to do?
Well, it is giving them a kind of legitimacy and a pride of place that I suspect that we may want to see looking at inclusivity, which is a major part and model, I suspect, of the manifesto, that this would be in tandem and in theme with what they want to do, to bring people from the fringes, is to bring more voices into the body politic. So I think that's probably the thinking behind it.
But Roger, as part of an advisory group, that you know how policy is developed, you know what happens before it goes to the draftsman at the office of the political draftsman, before it is right. So when the policy is being developed, if it is that you want broad church representation, shouldn't the mechanism be to draw them in at that point rather than at the review end, the last point before it becomes law, that you're asking them to exercise that power? Isn't that really a blunt instrument to wield at that level, you believe?
I think your argument has merit to it, but I think that the whole idea of making the Senate an inclusive space is probably where the PNP directorate is trying to locate this particular issue, as it relates to the consultation process and how sometimes how political that can be, and sometimes I think how long I think it takes to get through these processes.
Yes.
Sometimes I think that we get lost in all of that, and I think having them within that perspective from an inclusive and a cultural point of view may have somehow added nuanced value to the Senate. I suspect that is why.
Hear you on that. Sabrina, the other part is this. The PNP has openly courted the support of the Maroon community. And of course, they're in the business of trying to muster enough votes to win Jamaica House. That's what they're trying to do. Nothing wrong with that. So from the PNP's perspective and their relationship with the Maroons have made it clear, the accompanying Maroons at least, we want to be treated as a sovereign state. This courtship between the PNP and the Maroons, if it doesn't end in the Maroons being granted sovereignty from Jamaica and be recognized as a sovereign state within Jamaica, isn't that a collision waiting to happen? Are the PNP on a collision course by how they are wooing the Maroons, given that the Maroons ultimately want to be seen as an independent state, you believe?
That does sound like it's on a collision course, but it depends on the specifics of what they promised them outside of this. So they're winning them with the Senate seat, and it would have been a better idea for them to have the House of Representatives seat to say, okay, the Maroon areas could be a new constituency, and this is how you vote. So you have your dedicated seats within the House of Representatives. But besides this point, I haven't seen what else they have been promised, so I can't speak on it outside of that.
Yeah. Roger, I want to hear you on that point, because I note how close the Mark Golding keeps the Maroons to his side. He has indicated to them that, look, at least I'll listen where the government is not giving the Maroons audience. But isn't this a crash waiting to happen when the Maroons say, okay, make us do what is necessary for us to be established and recognized as a sovereign nation in the confines of Jamaica land we love?
George, I do have some concerns there, to be honest. Especially when the framing of the term says recognizing Maroon treaties. If you're going to recognize Maroon treaties, more than likely it would suggest that you're seeking to give independence or that kind of autonomy to the Maroons. And then within the bigger Jamaican space, what does that mean? And if it is that it's a promise that can't be realized, what then will be the recourse? I am a little bit uncomfortable with that. I think that we need to be very careful and we need to tread. It can't be just politicking or it can't be just courting. It has to be that something tangible is being offered. And if something tangible is offered, I think we need to know at this stage, at this point, what it is that is being offered. Let it not be a backdoor or a off-the-shelf conversation. it's too important of an issue for us to just gloss over.
Yeah.
So it's a point of concern for me.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Sabrina, finally, we aren't talking about perfection. I don't think perfection exists. So we're not critiquing the PNP document for not being perfect. But overall, when you look at the things that you have questions about, the things that make, that seem solid to you, do you think that this is a strong manifesto from the opposition party going into the election?
It feels a bit general. I would have liked to see them drill down on a few more things. It's like they're given an overview of what they plan to do. Yes, a manifesto, but it doesn't feel like I have a clear enough idea of what will happen if they were to succeed in the election.
Yeah. Roger, same question for you, my friend. Overall, notwithstanding the things that you have questions and concerns about and you may not be so gung-ho about, is there enough in this to say, yes, this is a solid effort to invite voters to support the PNP on September 3?
I think this is enough for us to give it a tick toward democracy and progress. The areas that are covered, I think that's really the core of the party and what the party wants to see, whether it's justice, whether it's access to education, whether it's care for the vulnerable and the healthcare services, whether it's support for families and youth. I think those are critical areas. They're covered. They are not just glossed over. There's an attempt to explain and to break out, and I think further explanations will come over time. So, yes, I think it's a really good working document, as it is a manifesto supposed to be, because there are many different things and iterations that will follow thereafter. But this is a good document for us to use to press the opposition at the moment, to ask them the questions that need to be asked, to put them to the test and hear what their response will be.
Yeah, it's not Karl Marx's communist manifesto, but guess what? It is a document that the PNP is working with, and they're inviting people to support. Thank you for your time, Roger. Thank you, Sabrina. Despite the technical glitches, we got some of your perspectives in. Appreciate it. And we'll talk again, Roger. All the best. That's my time here on Lead Story. Make way for the news at 7 with Nika Lewis, who's wearing the micro skirt today.